time cannot find me at all. Just a breath away, nothing here but heaven, nowhere but love to fall. As I go within, quiet peace offers something sacred. There's a sweetness that waits, holiest embrace that reminds me I'm always home. As I go within, quiet peace offers something sacred. There's a sweetness that waits, holiest embrace that reminds me I'm always home. It's here that I am always home.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. My name is Reverend Debbie McDonnell, and it's my honor to welcome you here tonight. So grateful that you chose to spend your Wednesday evening here with us at the Going Within service. The Going Within service intention is that you have a place to come and pause midweek, to just let go of anything that happened before this moment and just allow yourself to be fully present in this moment with the divine, to allow yourself to just reconnect, renew, refresh, feeling at home here at Seaside. So at the beginning, we'll take about 15 or 20 minutes and just go into the silence and do some meditation, and we'll have some music and a message. But to start us off this evening is practitioner Brian Atkins.
Good evening. I'm Brian Atkins, and I've been a practitioner at Seaside for just over 12 years. I think being a practitioner is one of the coolest things that you can do. I will be doing your reading this evening, and please remember we will be available, both myself and Trudy Sefke will be available for prayer out in the hall room, near the prayer room out there at the end of service. But for now, please join me with turning within. And I know that God is all there is. God is that all-loving, all-caring source of spirit, that divine essence that permeates everything and everyone. God is in the beauty of the snow-capped mountaintops. He is in the roar and the power of the ocean waves. And I know that God is right here, right this very moment, expressing itself through each and every one of us here at Seaside today. Each of us is that divine essence. And I know that we are all one with God. We are one with this source of love and caring and compassion, the source of wisdom and knowledge. Closer to us than our breath, that is where God is. And I give thanks in knowing that the service here this evening is divinely blessed. That each of us receives exactly that which we are here this evening. As the words flow forth from Reverend Debbie McDonnell's lips, each of us is touched. Each of us receives a shift, a new perspective. And we in turn take that message out into the world and pass it on to others. and consciousness expands throughout the world. And so I simply turn this time over to the hands of God and know that it is perfect. And so it is. Now I invite all of you to come up and light a candle, and please take the time to blow the flame out on the stick when you do so. And Arya will now, after that, we'll go ahead and lead us into meditation and prayer.
As I share my light, the world shines brighter. As I go within, the world is still. As I share my light, the world shines brighter. As I go within, the world is still. As I go within, the world is still. instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. To be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardon that we are pardoned. It's in dying that we are born to eternal life. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. To be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardon that we are pardoned. In dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Thank you, Jim and Arya, for your beautiful music.
Thank you.
So tonight's theme is the highest God and the innermost God, one God. And our first reading is from Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind text. We believe in one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that the incarnation of Spirit in us, and that all are incarnations of that one Spirit. We can never be separated from God, as we are from God, and God is in us. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. And then from the Center for Spiritual Living in Bellevue, Washington's website, we have the following. We believe in the unity of all life, and the highest God and the innermost God is one God. While we are not the whole of God, God is certainly the whole of what we are. While we will never be all that God is, we have access to all God in whatever measure we are able to embody. When we understand that spiritual law is the doer of the works, we release the need to see all avenues to our highest good as being limited by what we ourselves are able to make happen. And to give you an example of the fact that we all have access to this one God, I'm going to tell you a little story about my teen years, and I think a lot of you can probably relate to this. At the age of 19, I attended the University of San Diego, and during that time, my high school sweetheart was going to Chapman University, and we had what I would consider to be an amazing connection. And we were very busy, so we never had much opportunity to actually go visit each other. But quite frequently, I can remember times when I'd be studying away, and suddenly I would think of her, and the phone would ring. And this happened quite frequently. And there'd be other times when I would suddenly start thinking about something that was discussed between us or that we were planning on the future, and I'd pick up the phone and call her, only to find out that she was thinking about the exact same thing. So history has shown over and over again that we have access to this one mind. And in fact, it's been said that Mozart, in many of his concertos, wrote them note for perfect the first time. There was no hunting around for the perfect notes to see what worked. They just came to him through the one mind. Mm-hmm. And now I'd like to welcome Reverend Debbie McDonnell to the lectern.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Brian. Thank you very much for prayer and the reading. Ari and Jim for your song and setting the tone for the evening. We are in the midst of doing our year-long program that we're following along with over 100 centers for spiritual living that are all doing the same program, the Global Vision. Awakening to Our Spiritual Magnificence is February's theme, and that's what we're looking at, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. And the next slide there, Steve, this is the topics that are covered in February. We believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in everyone, and that all people are incarnations of the one Spirit. We see a world in which unity with God and connection with each other is emphasized. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, the idea that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. As I mentioned last time I was with you, I believe that the science of mind can be boiled down to just a few basic beliefs, a few basic subjects. And the more that I'm running talks and the more that I'm reading and the more that I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that often it feels like I'm talking about the same thing. But I'm truly not, although there are just a few core principles. And what I believe that they are at this point, and my list is growing. I'm starting to keep a list now of what these ideas are. But the first one is that God is all that there is. And we say that all the time. If we can believe that God is all there is, that there's nothing other than God, that there's not God and something else, there's just God. That's all that there is. That's the number one thing. The number two thing is that we are individualized expressions of that source, of that God, of whatever we want to call that life force, that we are each individual expressions of that God. And the other thing is that there is a creative process that's at work in the world. There's a creative process that we can use in order to manifest anything. And lastly, the idea that there's nothing that limits us. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that limits us in this world except our belief about the thing. So those are the four ideas. I think that if we could embrace those four ideas and live our life accordingly, we would see miracles happening every day in our life. If we could absolutely believe that, if we could walk in that absolute faith of knowing. Ernest, in the Science of Mind textbook, says, man's mind is the mind of God, functioning at the level of man's understanding of his place in the universe. Man contacts the mind of God at the center of his own being. Man contacts the mind of God at the center of his own being. Then he says, it is useless to seek elsewhere. So that means that we're not to look for God in some far-off heaven. We're not to look at God sitting up in the clouds. We're not to look at God anywhere, although God is everywhere. But where we seek that God is deep within us. The highest God and the innermost God is one God. Through the medium of mind, man manifests with the universe and contacts a power that can do anything for him he is able to conceive of it doing. Of course, this power will never deny its own nature. So this power can do for us anything that we can conceive of it doing. So again, the idea that the only thing that limits us is our belief about the thing. If we can believe it, we can see it, right? If we can believe in the healing, if we can believe in the abundance, if we can believe in the joy, we can see it. It's demonstrated for us. So the nature of God and the will of God are the same thing. You know, and there's an essay in Living the Science of Mind. Living the Science of Mind is a companion book to the Science of Mind textbook. We get it when we start classes. If you don't have one, it's a great little book to have. It's a book full of essays written by Ernest Holmes. And in the beginning of it, you can look in the index, and there's different topics that you can read. And one of Ernest's essays is on God's will. It's a 3 or 4 page essay. It's fun to read. I was one of those, I don't know about you, that was just always wondering what God's will was for me. What was it I was supposed to be doing? What was it I was supposed to do in any situation, in a relationship, with my family, with a career? I mean, I spent a long time trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, and I wanted to be in line with what God's will for me was, because I was sure there was like one thing, and I needed to know what it was. And I came to believe that it was kind of a mean trick that God had put on me. That here I was taught that I had to follow God's will, yet God never really gave me the download of what that was. You know, so I spent a lot of time reading and seeking and looking. I read everything I could read about what is God's will, what does God want me to do, you know, all the books. I mean, I have a shelf full of the books of, you know, do what you love and the money will follow and all these things to try to figure out what it was my purpose. What is it I was supposed to be doing? What did God want me to do? And then when I started studying the science of mind, Ernest said that the nature of God is the same as the will of God. That was like, whoa, that was great news to me. So if the nature of God is joy, then the will of God is joy. If the nature of God is abundance, then the will of God is abundance. It wasn't this huge mystery that I had to uncover. It was simply whatever that nature of the divine was, what was the divine's will for me and for each of us. Spirit is not going to ask us to do something that's against its own nature. This again is in the Science of Mind textbook. Unless there is a divine principle, universal soul, or subjectivity or medium which of itself, without any help or assistance, can produce things and will, then there is nothing in this teaching. But there is a divine principle, and what it does for us, it must do through us. Our part is the demonstration is to set the word in motion, thus compelling the law of subjectivity, the result or manifestation. Will you show the next slide? This is our Science of Mind teaching symbol. I'm sure you've all seen this symbol before. If you haven't, it's time to take Foundations class, because that's where it's introduced. It's in the Science of Mind textbook. But what it talks about here, and I'll explain it briefly, the V represents spirit coming down into manifestation and then going back up. The V is open because we're always open at the top. That was Ernest's thought. We have 3 levels there. If you'll see, the top level is spirit or source, all that is God, all that is. That second line is what I'm going to talk about, is the soul level or the law level. And what we need to know about what we call the soul, it's not the soul like we think about our human soul. It's in the science of mind, the soul is this level of the law. And the law is that which is impartial. It is neutral. It has no opinion. It has nothing. It's just like dirt. You know, we use the analogy seed, soil, plant. The seed is the top part, spirit. The soil is the middle. And the plant is the body at the bottom, the effect or the manifestation. So whatever thought we think, we input it into the soul or the law, and it is manifest. It is demonstrated. And it's that simple, that creative process. So the thing to know about the law is it doesn't care what you put in it. It is going to give you whatever thought it is that you think into it. So if you're thinking that life is hard and life is a struggle, well, by golly, it is going to be. It's the law's just happy to give you whatever it is that you put into it. It's not judging, it's not criticizing, it's not critiquing. So by the other hand, if we put in the idea that life is easy, life is joyful, life is glorious, life is wonderful, in fact, that's what we're manifesting in our life. And Brian read a little bit about this, and that's what I want to talk about, that we don't have to do the work. You see, it's not up to us to try to figure out the how of the thing. How are we going to manifest this life? How are we going to manifest what we want in our life? How are we going to contact that highest God? Right? The highest God and the innermost God. The way that all that we need to do is believe that we have access to it all. There is only the one mind, the mind of God. And it is my mind now, it's your mind now, it's all of our minds, always. Because there's nothing other than God. See, it keeps boiling down to these same simple principles. So our role in creating is simply to align ourselves. You know, the right use of our will is to align our will with God's will. So we don't have to force anything. We don't have to work hard at it. It's not our job to be the doer. The doer is the law. It's so much simpler. Our job is to be open and receptive and allowing, and to allow the divine thought to move through us into the law, and we let it be. You know, there's the idea of planting the seed and we don't go back and check it. We don't dig it up to see if it sprouted. You know, if we've planted a carrot seed or a turnip seed or whatever it is that we've planted, we let it be. We let it do what it needs to do in the soil. We let it gestate. We let it do and be. And it manifests. Again, our job is the belief. Our job is the belief. Planting the seed. You know, and the remembering that it is not I, but the Father within that doeth the work. We find ourselves having the grace to know that something greater than us does the work of making our lives manifest. The sooner, this is the Science of Mind text again, the sooner we release our minds from the thought that we create, the sooner we shall be able to live in alignment with Spirit. Always man uses. He never creates anything. You know, and that's an important tenet to remember. We are not the power. We are not the creator. We are using the power. We are allowing Spirit to create through us. Ernest goes on to say, always man uses. He never creates anything. The united intelligence of the human race could not make a single rosebud. We could not create a flower. But our thoughts centered in mind is using the creative power of the universe. So in that way is the connection between the highest God and the innermost God. You know, so the work is done by the law. Our work is to just align ourselves with that. To know that we are not creating, we are not making something happen. You know, we are just allowing it. We're just allowing it. This quote, that once you make a decision, I think we have the next slide up there. I think I actually have a slide of this. Once you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. This is this is said by Ralph Waldo Emerson, although there's another gentleman who they also credit with the saying that's almost exactly the same. But it's that whole idea of the universe conspiring. I love that idea in religious science, that once we set an intention, once we make a decision, the entire universe gets behind us to make it manifest, to make it take place in our life. We see it over and over again in demonstrations. Ask any religious science practitioner that's worked with clients the demonstrations they have seen. That's one of the things that at the end of each 2-year period, when it's time to renew the license, the practitioner is required to record demonstrations that they have witnessed. This is not a theory. This is an actual practical way of life. The creative process is true and real. You can test it. And it works. And when it doesn't work, there's a block. There's somewhere in you that is not believing that which is you're stating that you believe. There's a false belief. There's something underneath, which is exactly when we go to a practitioner, because that's what the practitioner helps us with. The practitioner helps us to uncover any false belief that we might be having that is keeping us from our good. If you find yourself wavering from the absolute belief of the knowing of the thing, then do a treatment for yourself. That's what spiritual mind treatments are for. And if you don't know how to do a treatment, again, take class. Jenny Mills, who's our Wednesday night coordinator, is teaching our treatment class this Saturday. It begins at 9 in the morning, goes till 1 in the afternoon. It's part of Foundations class, so if you've taken Foundations, you've been to the workshop, but you're welcome to go again if you want to hone your skills in praying for yourself. We have a very specific way that we pray in Science of Mind. It's that first step where we realize that God is all that there is. And the second step, we unify with that. We align ourselves with that power. We align ourselves with that source. And in the third step, we claim what it is that we're wanting to manifest. Jenny will explain it in a much deeper, more detailed way on Saturday. And then we give thanks, because the most perfect prayer is just that prayer of gratitude. Just thank you. And then we release it. We release our word into that law that we talked about. We release our word into the law so it can do what it needs to do. The laws do the doer, not us. We don't have to scramble around and go do a bunch of stuff and try to make sure it's working and, call in all the spirits or do whatever it is that we think we need to do. We just let it be. We release and let it be. And watch the wonders show up in our life. So, the highest God and the innermost God are one God. The nature of God and the will of God are one and the same. And the work is done by the law, not by us. And we do not create, we allow. And so, I'll leave you with those words for this week. I'll have you practice that creative process, knowing that you manifest wonderful things in your life. Thank you. And before we sing, we're going to do our affirmation, which is, so let's all say this together. I am aligned with my highest good today and always. Let's do it one more time. I am aligned with my highest good today and always. Are ya?
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on this earth as it is in heaven. heart within us. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in my life as it is in heaven. Each day I see everything we need, given so abundantly. And when you look into our souls, perfection's all you see. Lead us all into the arms of love, that we may know the truth of who we are. For thine is the kingdom, thine is the power and the glory for all eternity. Thy kingdom come in my life as it is in heaven.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. See, as Brian was talking about the one mind, and Jenny and I were just talking about the Lord's Prayer before service tonight. We were like, no, that's not what Aria sings. She sings the prayer of St. Francis, and lo and behold, a version of the Lord's Prayer. Yeah, it's beautiful. Signs of Mind version. Thank you. Well, it's time to now for our offering. It's time that we get to practice the law of reciprocity. I'd like to ask the ushers to come forward. We have Karen and Mary tonight. Good, thank you. Mary is one of our practitioner students. She's in training to become a practitioner, and we're blessed to have her. And Karen always. Thank you so much for being here. So this is the time that we get to give. Just please know that anything that you give does support Seaside Center for Spiritual Living. It helps support all the works that we do here at Seaside, and it helps to keep Wednesday night service alive and well. Please know that there is that spiritual principle that as you give, you receive. It's not why we give, but it certainly is a wonderful thing to get that wheel moving. If you're wanting more in your life, the answer is to be giving more. That's the way it works. So the prosperity prayer, please join me. As I give thanks for the good now flowing into my life, I gladly share that good with others. The more I give, the more I receive. I experience a deeper consciousness of peace and security, for I know that I am in the embrace of a warm, loving presence, forever seeking an outlet through me. My cup runneth over. I exist in limitless possibilities. Thank you. What's today? Oh, it is a week. Thank you, Jim, as always. So we have a few announcements before we do our closing song. Jenny just reminded me I'm a week ahead of myself. So Jenny's workshop is not this Saturday, it's the 27th. So you can sign up in the family move if you're interested in being part of that workshop. We have a couple other classes to finish off our winter schedule. Reverend Lori Mack is teaching E squared. That begins March 1st. It's a 4-week class. Take place in the Emerson room. Excuse me. Reverend Lori Sheets is teaching Shining Your Light. That starts on March the 7th. Again, it's a 4-week class. And on March the 7th is our last of our art classes that we'll begin having for the winter. It's Zen Tangle, which is a form of art that's a form of Zen meditation, relaxation. It's doodling, and it's no art skills necessary to be part of that class. That's going to be starting on Monday night, the 7th as well. So those are the last classes that we have coming up for our winter quarter. Spring quarter catalog will be out mid-March, so be looking for those classes. The same weekend, the 27th of Jenny's treatment workshop, Callie Holmes Sorensen, Dr. Christian's wife, who leads up our women's ministry, is having a women's retreat that day, her annual women's retreat. You can sign up at her table in the family room, and you can also go online, I think, and sign up with Eventbrite. So that's a half-day's women's retreat that will be taking place here at Seaside. I invite all you women to come out and be part of that. It's a great ministry that's growing rapidly. Next week, we have Reverend Bill Salisbury here for you. Next week is the Science of Mind Convention in Salt Lake City, so all the ministers from our movement will be gathering in Salt Lake City for the entire week next week. And so Reverend Bill will be here for Reverend Lori next week, and his talk is titled, Love Lights the Way. So you all know Reverend Bill. I think he's been here a few times for us, and he usually comes on Wednesday night with his wife. So I want to thank everybody that makes Wednesday night possible. Thank you to our sound team who are just fabulous. Ed and Steve, thank you so much. Thank you, Gregory, for doing the podcast for us on Wednesday evenings. You are a blessing. Thank you to everybody at home that watches live or watches it recorded. We're very grateful that you're part of Seaside. My music team, Aria and Jim, I love you guys. You're amazing. Thank you for being part of service. Our practitioners tonight, we have Brian Adkins. Thank you for always being here, Brian, and Trudy in the back holding the light. Thank you, Trudy. They are available for prayer after service. Please don't leave here with anything on your heart. It is their joy to pray for you. So you can meet them right outside the side doors here in front of the chapel. Terry is here for the bookstore. Thank you, Terry, for opening the bookstore for us on Wednesday nights. We are just back from the gift show. A bunch of stuff just came in. Barbara unpacked it on Monday. Got a new book order in just yesterday. So check it out. We have some good stuff in there. And with that, I'd like to pray. So if you have anybody in your life that you would like to add to this vortex of prayer, please just rise them in your consciousness right now. Bring them forward in your mind and know that they're added to this place of prayer. Anybody that you think might need a healing or yourself, just include it in that. Oh. So just turning within, knowing and feeling and sensing that one power that is God, that is absolutely all that there is. I know that there is nothing, absolutely nothing but the divine. There is only one power, one source, one energy in the universe, and it is good, and it is love, and it is life. And I know that I am one with this source. I know that I am one with all that is. I know that I am an individualized expression of the divine. And just as I know that that is true for me, I know it's true for each one here. I know that each one is a perfect individualized expression of God. Perfect, whole, and complete, right here and right now. I know that there's nothing broken, nothing that needs to be fixed, only to reveal that divine essence that is forever there, that is ever present. And I know and I claim for each one a perfect unfoldment of life and love, knowing that each and every activity, each and every relationship, each and every event in their daily life is God interacting with God, is love interacting with love. And I know that there's any individual that is in pain at this moment, that pain just dissipates and goes back into the nothingness from which it came from, knowing that there is only love, that there is only light, that energy moves in through and as each one in this perfect healing, in this place of perfect unfoldment. I am so grateful to know this truth. For every individual that's put a prayer in our prayer request chest, I know that the Spirit has already answered that prayer, and the answer is yes. And I know for Seaside Center for Spiritual Living that it is a place of expansion. It is a place of growth. It is a place of that divine connection. It is a place of safety, a place of love, a place of fellowship. So with that sense of absolute gratitude for all that is, for all that's been given, for all that's been taken away, and for all that remains, that I just say thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you, Source. Thank you, life. Thank you for all of it. It's with that sense of absolute gratitude that I just release these words of the divine nature of the law, knowing that it is already done. And so it is. Join me for our closing song.
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give up my heart. Love is my decision, and no one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down that road. Love is my decision, and no one else can lighten my load. No, and once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision right here and now. My decision right here and now.
God bless you. Join us for refreshments in the family room. Thank you.
One soul, one dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. We are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way in the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part. We are all a part. We are all a part of one heart. We are all a part of one heart. Thank you so much.